Hey there, Patriots. Welcome back to Front Lines. Death Watch here to give you guys more intel so you can update your personal armory and fight back against the fake news media machine. And today we're going to talk about trans athletes in women's sports. More mainly, it's kind of a continuation of this conversation because you just recently had this person named Anne Andreas who completely destroyed the Canadians women's powerlifting record, right? So a trans identifying person came in first place at Canadian Powerlifting's Union 2023 Western Canadian Championship in Brandon, Manitoba this weekend. And Andreas 40, right? This person is 40 years old and outlifted their female competitors by over 200 pounds to win top honors in the female masters unequipped category, right? According to Redox, Andreas lifted a total of 597 pounds across the squat, bench press, and deadlift events. The second place lifter, Sujan Jill, finished the competition with a combined 387 pounds, right? So, completely ridiculous, right? Keep in mind, I'm 40 years old. Okay, that's just ridiculous, right? You definitely don't see women at that age definitely nowhere near lifting that much amount of weight, right? And so this again kind of brings back up the main issue within the culture war. Why are we seeing a huge amount of trans people in women's sports? Because you don't see it on the other end of the spectrum, right? You don't see a huge amounts of trans men competing in male sports and taking home the gold. Okay, you see it only with trans women competing in biological female sports and destroying the competition, setting new records. Right, this person has set a new powerlifting record for the Canadian women powerlifting competition. Okay, no other woman, biological woman, is going to be able to achieve that, right? And so when you see all these feminists coming out and saying women's sports are underrepresented, right? There's not enough equal pay. The men are being treated better and all this other crap, this, that, and the third. Why is it that they're not barring biological men who are identifying as women from competing in their sports, right? Because when you look at the Hall of Fame, you're going to see that Hall of Fame is going to be filled up with trans women, right? It's no longer going to be women who are holding all the world records. It's going to be trans women, right? And so it's just complete hypocrisy. But really, it's in a earlier video I've done on this channel, it's part of the plan, right? It's all part of the plan because we looked at feminist theory, right? And feminists openly say that the idea of sexuality and gender roles are all just a big social construct, right? And that is what led to the trans community to kind of, well, the LGBTQ community to adopt that whole idea, because they said, well, if gender and gender roles within a society is all just a social construct created by the patriarchy in order to oppress the minorities and women, right? Well, hey, we're going to adopt that in gender and sexuality. It's all a spectrum, right? It's all just a social construct. It's really a spectrum, right? That's when you started having, LGBT become 2SLGBTQ, RGB 123, right? You know, it's just complete insanity, right? But at the same time, if you come out and say, hey, there is a difference between biological women and biological men, well, then you are somehow a transphobe, right? This is why J.K. Rowling has gotten in trouble, because she came out and was like, hey, my lived experience as a biological woman is different from the experience of a trans woman, because we are both different, right? In the leftist mindset, how dare you say there's a difference between trans women and biological women, because trans women are women, right? This is why you started having this whole new conversation of there's no such thing, there's women and there are people who are birthing people. There are uterus havers, right? Rachel Levine just recently came out and said, well, we have a group of egg producers, right? What does all that crap mean? Like, you mean we're women, right? Those are women. People who have uteruses are women. People who are able to give birth are women, right? But again, feminists came out and said all that's a social construct, and that allowed for the LGBTQ community to start saying that, well, all of it is a social construct. The idea of what defines a man, what defines a woman, all that is, again, a social construct created by the patriarchy in order to oppress us minorities, right? And this is what has led to this type of clown world insanity that we're seeing, because again, no matter how much these leftists come out and try to make up all this bullcrap, you still clearly see people who are biological male on paper. When you look at their biology, they are, they are biological males. They are identifying as women and taking home the gold, destroying the world records, destroying the competition, right? And it's stupidity all around, right? So it's not like, but they sit here and say we care about the science, right? We only believe in science. Well, the science is clearly showing that, yes, trans people who are, trans people who are competing in these sports, right? Mainly trans women, do have a advantage when it comes to other women because of their biological male properties that allows them to be stronger, faster, more resilient than their female counterparts, right? Their biological female counterparts, right? That's science. Biological men and biological women are built differently. Okay, and again, when it comes to Leah Thomas, a person who identified as a male, right, competed as male, identified as male, all throughout their high school and senior, or high school and college life, senior year of college at Penn State, decides to compete as a woman first time ever, destroys the national women's swimming competition, right? But yet, again, these leftists will sit here and argue with you that there is absolutely no difference. There is no advantage that any of these people have, right? They'll even have news articles coming out where they'll sit here and say, this is from NPR, right? Arguments that trans athletes have an unfair advantage lack evidence to support, right? Even though it's like the evidence is watching the competitions, right? Like, just watch the competitions. They're destroying the records. They're destroying their female competitors, right? And then you have articles like The Guardian who come out and say, well, trans women retain 12% edge in tests 2 years after transitioning. So even if these people go under hormone replacement therapy, right, transitioning therapy, before they even compete in the women's category, well, they're still retaining a slight edge because guess what? That is the biology. That's the properties, right? What remains is still the properties that was still given to them by birth for being, from being born a male. Sorry, it's biology, right? We're all supposed to believe in science, correct? Right? Even NBC, excuse me, NBC News comes out and says trans women retain athletic edge after a year of hormone therapy. So 1 year to 2 years, they're still they still have a slight advantage, right? And again, you see that in play with Leah Thomas. First year competing as a woman destroys the competition. This person, and Andreas, I don't know how long this person has been transitioning, but they're 40 years old. Okay, plenty of years living as a biological male before they decided to probably transition, and they're still destroying the female competition. Okay, so it's just ridiculous that we're sitting here pretending that this is all just make believe nonsense, that the right wing are pushing a conspiracy theory, right? No, it's supposedly science, right? Don't believe your eyes, right? Whatever you're seeing on screen with these competitions, don't believe your eyes. It's all made up conspiracies that the right wing are making up. ABC News, right? This has driven a lot of backlash. House Republicans are now trying to pass bans on transgender athletes competing with women. You also have it on the world stage, right? World Athletics bans transgender women from competing in female world ranking sports, right? I believe I got another article. World chess body, right? I didn't even know chess actually segregated. Well, not really. I can't really say segregated. Actually had two separate divisions for men and women, right? I thought because it was, chess is more like a puzzle sport game. They would just have it all unisex, right? What sports actually, now that I beg the question, what sports actually are unisex? So world chess body bars trans women from competing in women's events. This is also from NBC News, right? The International Chess Federation's new guidelines also strip transgender men of previously won women's titles. So what's going on here, right? So clearly, all these people, even on the, so you can't really sit here and say, well, it is the evil, transphobic Republicans, right? No, on the world stage, okay, people are looking at this and saying, hey, this is clearly not going to fly here because on the world stage, this is ridiculous. Okay, so it's just all around. Again, a lot of this is political, even when it comes to the beauty pageants, right? Recently, you had a beauty pageant where a trans woman won, right? And when you look at the lineup of the women, clearly that person was not only was they the only trans person competing, but a lot of the other women clearly were a lot more attractive, right? And so it definitely begs the question as to is it the only reason why that trans person won was because of politics, right? Was it because the judges simply voted for that person based on the fact that they were wanting to virtue signal that, hey, look, the only trans person to compete in this competition somehow won the competition, right? They clearly sat there and was like, hey, we're going to allow this person to win so we can then virtue signal to say, hey, we are not transphobic. We are down with all the, with LGBTQ rights and all this other crap, right? And again, when you looked at the lineup of the competition, there was clearly a lot more attractive a lot more attractive people, right? You even have local beauty pageants where trans women are being nominated for the awards, right? They're winning the beauty pageant straight out, even though when you look at them, you're like, come on now. Let's be really honest. That person is not the most attractive person on this stage, right? There's other women who, that trans person is probably a little bit more attractive than the actual biological woman to their left or to their right. But everybody clearly sees that, hey, this other person right here who's a biological woman definitely should have won, is the most attractive person in this huge group of women, right? So, right. So really what it boils down to is a lot of politics. It's really just political because again, feminists and feminist theorists push this concept that everything is just a social construct. The LGBTQ community then hijacked that, and then that's when you started having this new age of feminism, which is now trans inclusionary feminism, where you start having the idea of what a woman is completely destroyed, right? Biological women are now being referred to not as women, but as simply uterus havers, birthing people. Rachel Levine, again, just came out with a brand new term called egg producers, right? Ridiculous. Ridiculous times that we live in, right? But like always, stay safe, stay sane, be vigilant, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you, Patriots, on the battlefield.